Okay, so hi, I hope everyone is doing well. What we're going to be doing today, we will be making a game, and the game that we're going to make it will involve some sort of maze. Um, Now, the maze that you can make, we will be looking at a basic maze. However, there can be, or you guys may think about other ways that you can actually make your game a little bit more difficult or add extra features to your game, which we will be looking at towards the end of this video. So, the initial part of the maze should be taking you roughly 1 hour to complete. And if you do have any additionals, that would obviously take a little bit of extra time. So the maze that we're going to create, you can create a maze based around any idea that you want. Uh, the first thing we want to do is we want to actually edit our backdrop. So I'm going to click on backdrop here. And as you can see, as soon as I've clicked on my backdrop, we have a few different things going on. So I have different options with regards to my code. And I've got my backdrop tab at the top here. If I click back on my sprite, as you can see, we've got um, more lines of code that we can use, and I've got my costumes that I can edit here. So we need to make sure that we've clicked on the correct thing. We need to be on our backdrop. Now the backdrop that we're going to use, we're going to design one from scratch. So I'm going to head over to backdrop to design a backdrop. Now you would notice that you have two different boxes here. You've got a slightly sort of light grayish box, and you've got another white box there. Now the white box that we see, that's what will appear on our canvas or on our game. So we need to make sure that anything that is drawn on this canvas, we need to understand that anything which is outside of this box will not appear on screen. So the first thing I'm going to start off with doing is I will draw a background. So we need to think about the scenario for our game or our maze. I'm going to actually use a jungle style theme. Okay, so I've clicked on my rectangle, and I'm going to draw a rectangle. I'm going to think about which color I'm going to fill. So my jungle will be a green color. Okay, so it's not going to be a bright green like this. I will use slightly darker green. Now my outline at this moment, it shouldn't really matter which color I have my outline or the thickness of the outline either. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a box. Okay, now as you've noticed straight away, I've only filled half of this canvas, which means that only half of this is filled here. As you can see on this side, if I make this smaller, it's not actually affecting anything that's on the canvas itself. So it will not affect the game itself. Whilst I still have these blue dots and these blue lines around my box, I can actually resize it. And now it's actually covered the whole of my screen, as you can see there. So that's my main part of my maze done, or my background of the maze. Now I need to think about the walls that I'm going to have. So I'm going to actually use a brown color, like a tree type color and a branch type color for the walls of my maze. So I'm going to actually draw another box to do that. So the outline in this case, it will be a nice brownish color. Okay, so what I can do is get the color I want. That seems like a nice brownish color to me. The fill that I want in this case, I want that box that I'm going to fill to be transparent. Okay, now in order for me to use transparent, I would use this box here. So this white box with the red line, that would mean that it's transparent. Okay, so once I've clicked that, I'm also going to make it a little bit thicker. Okay, the thickness that you decide to use is up to you. And now for some reason that's gone back to black. So what I will do is just try and get that back to the color that I wanted. Okay, or another color that I wanted. Okay, and I can draw my box. Now I want this box to cover the edge, and as you can see, it hasn't done that yet. So what I can do is I still have the blue dots and blue lines around it. I can actually resize it. If you do happen to click off that, you can actually click back on it by using this tool here, the select tool, and I go back and select my box. And again, I would continue to resize that the way I want. And as you can see, as I'm pushing this around onto that white square, or white rectangle. Okay, it's actually pushing that perfectly around around my screen there. Okay, so that's a very easy maze to get through. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add a few lines for it to try and get through. Okay, so the lines that I'm going to add, I'm actually going to use this line here. Because I've already selected my outline color, I do not need to change it. If you cannot select that same outline color, if your outline color has changed for some reason, what we can do, okay, because obviously now I've got another color, can't remember exactly which numbers I use, I can actually use this color picker. That color picker would allow me to choose any color which I have on screen. And I'm going to come here and click brown. As you can see, that edge of the circle is actually selecting the color that I'm on at the moment. Okay, and again, I've got the correct brown that I want. So I'm going to draw lines around my maze. Okay, now instead of me getting some wonky lines that I might not want, if I use a shift key, that would ensure that the lines are straight. Okay, so I've only got angles which are 0, 90, and 45. Okay, so I'll draw my first line like so. I'll draw my second line like so. Okay, you can, if you wanted to, try to make your game a little bit hard, you can do. Okay, that's up to you. Okay, remember, if we go off the canvas like this, that's not a problem. For some reason, my outline or the thickness of my line changed there. I can simply click on that and edit that. 25. There we go. And as we can see, that line is going off the canvas, but it's not going off my game there. It's not a problem. Whoops. Okay, remember we can always use Control and Z to undo. Okay, now the reason that green box moved, because I had that select icon clicked. If I undo that using Control and Z or using this arrow here, that would push back. I'd go back and click select the line option. Okay. And if I hold shift, I can get myself a nice straight line there. Let's make that one longer. Do you know what? That's not the best way to do it. I'm pretty sure you guys would be able to tell me the best way to do that. Okay, and that would obviously be to click on that and make that longer. Okay, for some reason, this is playing around with me. Okay, so that's my maze there. Okay, so I'll give you guys some time to do that if you want to pause and then come back and then we can carry on. Okay, so now we will have some sort of goal for my sprite to reach so that we can say that that level is finished. What we can do, there's a number of ways we can do this. We could either color that little area or we can actually use a sprite there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a sprite there later on. So we're going to come back to our sprite. And what we want to do is we want to keep one sprite which will move around in the game. We have a few options of what we can do with regards to the sprite. We can keep this cat sprite. That's nice and easy. What we can also do is we can choose one of the sprites that they've given us, or we can actually draw our own sprite. Okay, what I'm going to do, so I can, if I wanted to choose a sprite from this list like here. Okay, what I'm actually going to do is I will very quickly draw my own sprite. Now the sprite that I'm going to choose will be something, or the sprite that I'm going to draw will be something very easy. Very simple. I need to make sure that I use that center area. Okay, I can actually fill that. I'd want to use a different color as well. Okay. Now, the reason why I'd want to use that color is because that color will be used later on in the game. Okay, let's make that a little bit thicker as well. Okay, so as you may have realized, I am actually drawing a spider. Okay, and I can draw two nice little eyes as well. Okay, I don't want any outline on the eyes. Let's make those eyes a little bit smaller. I'm just going to move the eyes to the side for now, just so that I can see what I've got going on. Okay, so that's one eye. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste that. So we have one eye there. Select both of them. We have one eye there. Okay, so that's the shape that I'm going to use. So I've got my spider there. I don't actually want this cat anymore, so I can bin him. And this sprite, what I'm going to do is I'm going to now code him. Now at the moment he is very big, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make him smaller. Okay, let's try 30%. Okay, which is a decent size. Now I'm going to code him. Where do I want him to start from? I'm going to get him to start from here whenever we start the game. So which I'm now going to code. I'll let you guys choose your sprite. And obviously you can do whichever sprite you want. Make sure you get the size completed as well. Now what I have also done is I've moved him into the corner, and as we can see, my X and Y coordinates have changed. Okay, it would always change based on where he is placed. So if any of you guys don't know, we have the coordinates which measure every single part of the screen. We have the 0, 0 coordinates, which is smack bang in the middle. We have the X coordinates, which are horizontal, and the Y coordinates, which are vertical. So anything outside, anything to the right of the x-axis is a positive. Anything to the left of the middle or 0, 0 is negative, and anything underneath that the actual y-axis or the line for the y-axis is negative. Anything above it is positive. So at the moment he is in this corner here, which is negative x and a negative y. So I'm going to code it so that whenever we start the game, and you guys should know what we would use to start the game, it would be used at events and using a green flag. Once the green flag is clicked, what we want to do is we want to tell him to go to this location. Okay, think about which one of these we're going to use. In this case, we would use motion because we're going to get him to move, and we would use the go to line of code. And as we can see, the X and Y axes, which were filled here, have automatically been filled in here for us. If I move him around, these will change here, but will not change within my code. So as I click on my green flag, he goes to where we have asked him to go. The other thing I want him to do as soon as we start the game is I want him to point into a certain direction, and that would be the direction he is currently facing. Now, the next thing I want him to do, if you guys are able to figure it out, is I want him to actually follow my mouse pointer, and I want him to do it all the time, moving towards it slowly. Okay, now, you guys may be able to tell me exactly what we're going to use. If I want him to point towards my mouse pointer, where would that be? That would actually be motion, and we have point towards mouse pointer like so. If you remember, we have in the past used go to, and we used the mouse pointer there where our our sprite went to the mouse pointer. In this case, we are only pointing towards the mouse pointer. Once we've pointed towards it, we want him to move towards the mouse pointer. Now, there are a few options that we could do. Okay, we can use go to, okay, and that use the mouse pointer there, or go to mouse pointer using this. In this case, we do not want to use this. We can use glide, so it will slowly move there to that random position. We do not want to use any of these. We want him to move towards the mouse pointer slowly, so we're going to actually use move 10 steps. We want him to continuously do this. So in this case, what we would use is go to control. We have a few loops that we can use to continuously do something. We can use a repeat loop. We can use a forever loop, or we can actually use the repeat until loop. Okay, any of these we can use. The repeat loop will only do it a certain number of times. We want it to be something that will carry on going on. So it will not use that one. Forever will do it forever. Repeat until will do it until a condition is met. We can use that. Okay, some of you guys who may decide to improve on your work later on may decide to use that later on. But for now, we will just use the forever loop, and we would ask him to forever point towards the mouse pointer and move 10 steps. So as we can see, he is moving towards my mouse pointer very fast. Okay, now some of you guys may actually say that there's a problem that he's going through the walls, okay, which we understand. And as we can see, once he gets to the mouse, it starts to flicker. So what we're going to do is, instead of getting to move 10 steps, we're going to ask him to move 1 step, okay, which is much slower. Okay, as we can see, it does get a little bit easier and slower, and again, he does flicker, but it takes a lot longer for him to get there. Now, the next problem that we have is he's going through our walls. Okay, we want to actually get him to stop going through the walls. We need to think about exactly what we're going to use in that case. Now, we are saying that if something happens, we want you to do something. So we can use either of these, an if statement or an if-else statement. An if statement, we're saying that if this condition is met, then do this. And if then else is saying, if this condition is met, do this, otherwise do this. In this case, all we're going to do is tell him that if you touch the brown line, then I want you to restart. And if he's not touching the brown line, he's simply going to carry on with this code. So we only want the if then. Okay, so we've got that there. If he touches the brown line, what is he going to do? Like we've already mentioned, we want him to go back to this point here. Okay, so there we go. And what will the condition be? It's actually going to be if he's touching the brown line. So we're going to actually head over to sensing. Okay, now we have used sensing in the past, and we're actually going to say if you touch a specific color, then go back to the beginning. What is a specific color? We're going to click that and edit. Now we can choose the colors that we have here. We do have the brown color. Instead of actually using the color scheme that we used earlier, because we cannot remember. If you did remember, that's great. If you don't remember, we will use the color picker. If you remember, we went through that before. I use the color picker. I'll go and pick the color that I want. As you can see, I'm currently on green. I'm going to go ahead and select the brown color that I want. So now what we've said is forever, point towards the mouse and move towards it. And if you're touching the color brown, then go back to the beginning. So let's test that out. One thing we always do when we create a piece of code is we can always test it out. So he's going towards the mouse pointer very slowly. Let's see what happens when he touches brown. There you go. He's gone back to the beginning, and we restart. Okay. Now, there are things that you guys can do in order to make this better. You can think about how you can incorporate lives into this. You might want to add a timer, so you've got a certain amount of time to get to it. That is all up to you. Okay, but we do need to add something there to show that the game has now been completed. So what we're going to do is we're going to add another sprite. Okay, something that the spider may want. Let's try and find something here. I could draw another one, but I'm just going to go for the extra sort of easier option. something that a spider might want. They might want a fortune cookie. They might want a gift. They might want a hippo. Oh, we had a ladybug there. We've got 2 ladybugs there already, which we could have used. Could want a monkey, could want milk, could want an orange. I'm not sure quite exactly. Oh, do we have flies? Because I know that, no, we don't have a fly. Do you know what? Let's go for a fruit salad. Okay, so this spider wants a fruit salad. Now, there's a number of things we can do with the fruit salad. We can code it. Some of you guys may decide to add levels, but that will be all explained in a different video. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move my fruit bowl into the corner. Okay, the fruit bowl will not need coding. It will be my spider that will need coding. And what I'm going to say is that if he's actually touched the fruit bowl, then what we can do is simply end the game and say, well done. Okay, now that will be coded exactly the same as this. Okay, well, not exactly the same, but it will be very similar. We're going to say that if, we'll head over to sensing, if you are touching, and we're not going to use a mouse pointer, we will use a fruit salad. If you touch the fruit salad, then what do we want to happen? We can simply say, but oops. Well done for 2 seconds, and then we can actually end the game there as well. So we can actually stop all. Okay, that would all go in the forever loop. We can actually add another line of code to get my, if you're touching color, say, whoops, for let's say 1 second, and then start again. Okay, so that will constantly forever run through that loop. Okay, now what we can do is we can test that out again. He's moving nicely. It says whoops, and he'll start again, and I'll get him to move back around again. Okay, I'll very quickly just move him around there. Let's test this. Very thin gap. There we go. Okay, all done and all finished. So that's a nice little quick maze that you can do. Now, what some of you guys may want to do is you may want to sort of improve on that. I will add another video in order to show how you can improve on that. A few ideas. You may want to add extra levels, which may have different sorts of backgrounds, different colored backgrounds. It may be different levels of difficulty, so where the gaps may be thinner, or you may have more sort of little bits of the maze that you need to get through. You may want to add a scoring system. There could be bits of fruit to collect on the way, or it could be measured by time. You could have extra boosters, which could possibly give you extra points or extra time. Something which makes you go slower or faster. So if just before the bend, if you collect something, you know, let's say an apple, it would allow you to go slower through the bend. You could possibly collect an orange, which makes you go faster for a few seconds. It's completely up to you what you want to do. You might want to incorporate a high score. You may want to incorporate the fact that you need to collect a key before you can open a door. It's endless with what you guys can do. But what you guys have done here, if you've created a game similar to this, you've made a very basic game, and now the next stage is to think about how you can improve on that. Loads of ideas you can use. I've only given you a few. There's no limit to what you guys can do. Okay, I hope you all enjoyed that, and I hope you enjoyed playing good games, and I can't wait to see some of your games.